Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Tonight on Gravitas, our top story focuses on the latest from West Asia. Israel claims to have struck more than 300 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, leaving at least 270 dead. How many fronts can Israel fight on really? What is Israel's plan? We decode the developments from the region that remains on the boil. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show. What is Volodymyr Zelensky's victory plan to defeat Russia? Will it work? Sri Lanka has a new president. What will the new leader taking over mean for the country and for India? Floods have wreaked havoc in Japan. We get you a special report. All this and more coming up. Since October last year, when the war in Gaza broke out, West Asia has been on the cusp of an all-out catastrophic regional war. On several occasions, in fact, tensions have skyrocketed. Recent incidents, though, seem to have tilted the possibility of a regional war to an ever-increasing reality. Israel, by its own claim, has struck more than 300 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon on Monday, reportedly leaving at least 270 dead and over 1,000 injured. This is reportedly the most intense and highest number of airstrikes against Lebanon in the last 18 years. In fact, such was the intensity of the attack that at least 80 strikes were carried out by the IDF in a span of just 30 minutes, just half an hour. This is as per reports by Lebanese media. Israel's purpose of the attack against Hezbollah reportedly is to facilitate the return of over 60,000 displaced Israelis back to the northern parts of the country. And reports say the Israeli citizens were displaced as a precautionary measure due to the constant exchange of fire between Israel and Hezbollah since October last year.
We have a goal, ensuring the safe return of Israel's northern communities to their homes. And to do so, we will take all the necessary measures to achieve it. The sequence of action serves the goal that we have set. We will continue using all means at our disposal in order to achieve our goals.
But that is not where this ends. There is, in fact, a lot more to this. As per reports, Israel's top army leaders also want to create a buffer zone through ground operations. Yes, a buffer zone. Where exactly? Inside Lebanon. Why? To prevent incessant attacks on towns and communities across northern Israel. You see, following the Lebanon war between 1985 to 2000, Israel controlled 900 square kilometers of land in Lebanon called the Security Zone. Earlier on Monday, the Israeli army spokesperson Avichai Adrai cautioned residents of southern Lebanon that airstrikes on houses in Lebanon, which Hezbollah allegedly hid weapons, were imminent. Listen in.
We advise civilians from Lebanese villages located in and next to buildings and areas used by Hezbollah for military purpose, such as those used to store weapons, to immediately move out of harm's way for their own safety.
Now, reports say thousands of residents of southern Lebanon received calls from a Lebanese number directing them to distance themselves 1,000 meters away from any post used by Hezbollah, including the Lebanese capital.
We are here because of the phone calls. They are calling everyone and threatening people on call. So we are here to take my boy from the school. The situation is not reassuring. We have received threats on call saying they want to strike Beirut.
You see, this warning from Israel is concerning because we have seen these same warnings by the IDF on multiple occasions for Gaza, cautioning citizens to evacuate. The question is, will we see a repeat play out in Lebanon? But at the same time, Hezbollah is not Hamas. It is one of the most, if not the most, heavily armed non-state groups in the world. In its arsenal, it has weapons like precision rockets and drones that can reportedly hit all parts of Israel. Experts claim that they have more than 100,000 rockets. Its own leaders say that the group has the same number of fighters, that too battle-hardened, remember, in conflicts across Syria. And they are not alone. They are backed by Iran. Meanwhile, Iran has flaunted the Jihad missile that can reportedly hit targets as far as 1,000 kilometers. And a new upgraded drone, the Shahed 136B drone, with an operational range of more than 4,000 kilometers, enabling it to strike anywhere in Israel. They now also have got more ammunition. Aside from the support of Hamas and the Houthis in Yemen, Iraq also entering the fray. Reportedly, 2 cruise missiles and 2 drones fired from Iraq were intercepted by Israel on Sunday near Golan Heights. A group of Iran-backed Iraqi militias claimed responsibility for the attacks. So the immediate question is, how many fronts can Israel fight on? Will a conflict with Hezbollah be as bitter for Israel like the Second Lebanon War in 2006, or will it be worse? For now, it seems the all-out catastrophic West Asia war that everyone has been fearing is just a trigger away. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has a victory plan to defeat Russia, he claims. Zelensky arrived in the United States on Sunday to present this so-called victory plan to US President Joe Biden. In fact, Zelensky toured a Pennsylvania ammunition plant on Sunday as he began that visit. It is a vital visit, surely, but will it yield any concrete outcome? And what is Zelensky's plan for Ukraine's victory, really? What is this blueprint to defeat Russia? You see, Zelensky cannot make victory happen alone. That's pretty clear by now. And so, while Zelensky is in the US to set out the victory plan, the desperation and urgency is evident. It is a bid to influence White House policy on Ukraine's war with Russia, no matter who wins the US election in November. The Ukrainian leader basically wants to present the plan to President Joe Biden and his two potential successors, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Zelensky will be addressing the UN General Assembly on Tuesday, in fact. Now, what exactly is this victory plan all about, and what is the significance? You see, Zelensky believes if the plan is backed by the West, it will have a broad impact on Moscow, including a psychological one that could help compel the Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war diplomatically. He has said that the victory plan envisages quick and concrete steps by our strategic partners from now until the end of December, quote unquote. Also adding that the plan would act as a bridge to a second Ukraine-led summit on peace that Kiev wants to hold and invite Russia to later this year. In fact, according to the Ukrainian president, there is no alternative to peace, no freezing of the war or any other manipulations that would simply postpone Russian aggression to another stage. Now, no points for guessing. Obviously, Zelensky's victory plan includes Kiev's long-stated request to use long-range missiles on targets inside Russia. In fact, he has blamed the allies' hesitation to authorize such use on escalation fears, but said he was hopeful his arguments would be heard during his visit. And the visit comes at a very crucial juncture for Ukraine. The stakes could not be higher. Ukraine relies heavily on US support, and a Trump victory in the November 5 US presidential election could prompt a reset of Washington's policy on Ukraine. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has said Biden is eager to discuss Zelensky's comprehensive strategy for success in this war, quote unquote. Zelensky has said his plan consists of a small number of points and that all these points depend on Biden's decision, not Putin's. Let's tell you more. According to Zelensky, the plan envisages that war will not return to us again in an even bigger wave in years to come, quote unquote. Like we told you, Zelensky has said that the proposals envisage quick and concrete steps by the strategic partners. And according to him, one of those steps is related to strengthening Ukraine's weapons capabilities, while another demands a clear place for Ukraine in the world's security architecture. In fact, Zelensky is also expected to seek massive assistance for Ukraine's economic recovery. Zelensky has also said he plans to invite Russia to a possible second international peace summit in November, but over the weekend, Russia has said it will not attend a possible second Ukraine peace summit in November. This comes despite the Ukrainian leader signaling that this time he would invite Moscow's representatives. According to the Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova, the summit will have the same aim to promote the unviable Zelensky formula as the only basis for resolving the conflict, get support for it from the world majority, and with that, present Russia with an ultimatum on capitulation. Adding, "We will not take part in such summits," quote unquote. Moscow said it was ready to discuss serious proposals that take into account the situation on the ground, made up of geopolitical realities, as described by President Putin in June. Remember, Putin had said in June that Russia will agree to peace talks if Ukraine gives up 4 of its regions that Moscow claims as its own. So, a victory plan sounds great. A blueprint to defeat Russia might look good on paper, but will it actually work? Will it change things on the ground? Will the so-called victory plan guarantee victory, or is it a defeat plan? And speaking of what things are looking like on the battleground, as heavy fighting continues to rage between Russia and Ukraine, both sides claim significant damage inflicted on each other. Ukrainian President Zelensky, like we said, is in the US to present Kiev's so-called victory plan to end the war, while the battlefield remains ablaze with relentless attacks.
Russian forces have intensified their assault on Ukraine, with the southeastern city of Zaporizhia taking the brunt of the bombardment. Ukraine accuses Russia of using glide bombs to target civilian areas in Kharkiv and Zaporizhia, causing widespread destruction. Russia claims to have launched a hypersonic missile to destroy US-made HIMARS rocket systems used by Ukraine. Aerial footage shows thick plumes of grey smoke over the sky in these images released by the Russian Defense Ministry. Moscow also boasts precision strikes on Ukrainian howitzers and tanks. In an attempt to counter Ukrainian drone strikes, Russia improvised its tanks with makeshift armor, creating what it calls turtle tanks. Kyiv released these images showing its forces quickly destroying several of these vehicles, demonstrating that Russia's wartime innovations are far from impenetrable. Ukraine also claims to have successfully neutralized Russian air defense systems. But Moscow's pain runs much beyond the battlefield in Ukraine. Ukraine in the past 1 week has struck 2 large ammunition depots deep inside Russia. Kyiv has doggedly targeted Russia's military assets, including ammunition sites and air bases across the border, as it tries to damage Moscow's ability to wage war. These attacks on Russia's military assets have become a crucial component of Kyiv's calculus as it seeks to level the playing field against an adversary with overwhelming firepower. While the war rages on the battlefield, Ukraine's President Zelensky's trip to the US is an effort to rally more military aid and international support. He's set to present his victory plan to President Biden as well as presidential hopefuls Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Russia, closely watching these developments, has stated it will review any official proposals that are presented. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
In a historic shift for Sri Lanka, Anura Kumar Desai Naik, leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna JVP party, has ascended to the presidency, marking a major change in the country's political landscape. Desai Naik, a known Marxist, joined the party in the late 1980s, at a time when the party allegedly looked to assassinate Sri Lanka's leaders and overthrow the government in an armed insurrection. Those days seem to be long gone now. As per reports, Desai Naik's journey to the presidency reflects the dissatisfaction felt by the 22 million citizens of Sri Lanka recently. As per reports, the fall of former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in 2022 and his successor, Ranil Wickremesinghe, precipitated by widespread protests against the government's financial negligence, set the stage for Zakir Naik. As citizens face skyrocketing prices for essentials due to the economic collapse, the electorate reportedly turned towards Zakir Naik, once considered a political outsider. With just 3% votes in the 2019 presidential elections, now the leader promising to address the grievances. Despite his party's radical roots, reportedly Zakir Naik has distanced himself from the violent past. He reportedly recognizes the necessity of international cooperation and support, stating during his inauguration that, quote, we should not be an isolated country, quote unquote, highlighting also a commitment to engaging constructively with global economic institutions, including the IMF. Zakir Naik reportedly wants to renegotiate the existing IMF loan conditions to relieve the burdens placed on the poorest citizens, which you see could be crucial as the previous measures hit everyday Sri Lankans pretty hard, resulting in higher taxes and utility costs. During his inauguration, Zakir Naik emphasized the need for good governance and transparency, pledging to root out corruption that he claims has plagued Sri Lankan politics. His foreign policy will likely face greater scrutiny as he seeks to navigate the complex geopolitical tensions in the region. With major players like India and China vying for influence in Sri Lanka, his administration's approach will be pivotal. Historically, the JVP has been leading towards nationalist policies. And while Zakir Naik's recent engagements with Indian and Chinese officials indicate a desire for balanced ties, the true test, as per experts, will be whether he can actually maintain this equilibrium without compromising national interests. In February, India, remember, hosted the new Sri Lankan president, which included meetings with the Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. India's economic help of $4 billion in the wake of the economic crisis reportedly was timely for Colombo and provided crucial support to Sri Lanka. In contrast, China, as per reports, is yet to accept Sri Lanka's request for a $2.5 billion credit line for a restructuring of its overall debt. That's not all. His decision on whether to uphold the previous government's decision on foreign research vessels docking in Sri Lankan waters will signal his administration's stance on foreign engagement. And the lifting of the ban, which was implemented in response to concerns from India and the US about Chinese presence, could either bolster relations with China or worsen tensions with India, demonstrating the tightrope that Zakir Naik has to walk. As Zakir Naik takes the helm of a country in crisis, he reportedly confronts a daunting legacy. His immediate challenges include revitalizing an economy still recovering from hyperinflation and ensuring that the recovery benefits all citizens. The previous administration saw a decrease in inflation and stabilization of borrowing costs, yet the burden on the average Sri Lankan citizen remains substantial. In his inaugural speech, Zakir Naik acknowledged the challenging country that he inherits. If he can redefine the country's relationship with its past, its economy, and the world at large remains to be seen. One thing is clear, his leadership will be closely watched. The expectations of the Sri Lankans are high, and the path forward is likely to be fraught with major challenges. On to Japan now. At least 6 people have lost their lives, 12 others injured in the record rainfall in the country's quake-stricken Noto Peninsula. Our next report getting you the details. Take a look.
Record rains in Japan's quake-stricken Noto Peninsula have wreaked havoc. Tens of thousands have been forced to flee their homes as floodwater inundated over 6,000 civilian residences. This as the region is still recovering from a major New Year's Day earthquake 9 months ago. More than 540 millimeters of rain pounded the city of Wajima in what turned out to be the heaviest continuous rain since days, causing widespread flash flooding.
The earthquake occurred on January 1st, and again the city became like a scene of a movie in September. I cannot help thinking the Noto region might be cursed or something.
Torrential rain has caused widespread landslides, uprooting trees, damaging homes, toppling buildings, and triggering fires. Additionally, 8 people are still missing or unaccounted for, and 4,000 homes left without power. And more than 100 areas in the region have been cut off due to high water levels.
Yesterday at about 8:30 am, I drove back from Anamizu to Wajima where I live. Then within only 30 minutes or so, water gushed into the street and quickly rose to half the height of my car.
The disaster prevention system warned the residents that the rain could flood the sewer system and dirty water could rise up. Footage from the area shows cars overturned and roads flooded and buildings laden with mud and debris. Reports say that at least 4 working for quake reconstruction have gone missing.
I thought I was finally settled here. It's now September and will soon be October. Then the winter will be right here.
The Japanese government has deployed self-defense forces to provide essential supplies and other support to affected cities, including Wajima and other isolated villages. Wajima's chief cabinet secretary says that 10,000 servings of alpha rice and 8,000 portable toilets have already been supplied to the flood-affected areas using SDF helicopters.
A purification program has been performed at the Lord Venkateshwara temple in the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. It was performed by a group of priests, with the temple authorities assuring that this would restore sanctity of the shrine. The Lord Venkateshwara temple is considered as one of the holiest sites in Hinduism. After the sanitization of the temple, the head priest invited devotees to go back to the temple. A temple official said the rituals lasted about 4 hours and said that a special focus was given to the kitchen where the food for devotees was made. The Tirupati Laddu has been the main offering at the temple for more than 300 years. It is believed to be the favorite offering there. Meanwhile, the Consumer Affairs Department of Government of India has said that they will consider additional measures to monitor the ghee quality in the market.
We will wait for its FSSAI report since food safety falls under their purview. Hence, we should all wait for the FSSAI to take action.
A new vendor for supplying ghee was appointed on Sunday, and officials at the temple assured that there will be no compromise on quality. The temple temporarily halted the use of cow ghee-based products used for offerings on Saturday. Stocks of the Karnataka Milk Federation's ghee are being rushed to the temple's kitchens. The Tirupati Tirumala Devasthanam's trust is also meanwhile stocking up on new ghee supplies ahead of the temple's 9-day annual event. The event is held every year from the 8th to the 12th of October. The ruling TDP government has alleged that adulterated ingredients were used to make the laddus, which includes animal fat allegedly. Laddus are sacred sweets that are offered during the rituals and during the ceremonies at the temple. Different Indian states have now started investigating temples and the prasad offered there amid the Tirupati controversy. States like Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka have either banned prasads from marketplaces or have started investigating the places where they are made. The controversy, remember, revolves around a lab report that was released by the National Dairy Development Board, NDDB, which said that the fat used for preparing the laddus was either lower or higher than the permissible limits. The report also listed the names of the alleged adulterants that could have caused this. The list included soybean, sunflower, cottonseed, fish oil, coconut and palm oil, beef tallow and lard. A complaint was lodged against former Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagannath Reddy and others, accusing them of malicious acts of defiling the sanctity of the temple and for hurting Hindu religious sentiments. Shifting focus for now, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's visit to Pakistan is raising eyebrows. Why is that? Because it comes at a time when Zakir Naik, a radical preacher and wanted fugitive in India, is preparing to take the stage in Pakistan, raising questions if the timing is politically calculated. You see, Zakir Naik fled India in 2016 after being charged with serious offences like money laundering, promoting terrorism and sowing religious discord under India's Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. And since then, Naik has been taking refuge in Malaysia. And now he is set to deliver speeches across Pakistan in major cities like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. Prime Minister Ibrahim's visit to Pakistan is scheduled for the 3rd of October, right before Zakir Naik's speaking tour begins in Karachi on the 5th of October. The question is this pure coincidence or is there more at play? The Malaysian government, which granted Naik permanent residency under the leadership of Mahathir Mohamad, remember, has been sheltering this man for years, despite India's repeated extradition requests. During a recent interaction at the Indian Council of World Affairs, when asked about Naik, Ibrahim mentioned that India did not raise the issue during his current visit. We will not condone terrorism, but I don't think this one case should deter us from further collaboration. Let's not sugarcoat it. Naik is more than just one case, and now with Ibrahim's visit to Pakistan timed just before Naik's tour, we have to ask, is Pakistan as important to the Malaysian Prime Minister as India? And Pakistan, for that matter, also deserves scrutiny. Why invite a man with such a dangerous reputation to speak publicly in major cities? Remember, Naik's lectures have been banned in multiple countries, including India, Bangladesh, for their ability to incite violence. This is a man who has been labelled dangerous, not by one country, but multiple. The evidence has been there for years. What more does Malaysia need to act? It is yet to act against Naik and in combating extremism. We now take a closer look at the world of India's elite, where wealth and luxury know absolutely no bounds. From private jets to sprawling estates, we take you inside this exclusive club where living large is the norm and the good life is only getting better. Our next report telling you how India's wealthy are reshaping the luxury landscape in a way. Take a look.
India's ultra-wealthy are living the good life, and they're doing it in style. From luxury homes to curated travel experiences, high net worth individuals and ultra-high net worth individuals are embracing the finer things in life. The latest Knight Frank report suggests they are also setting new benchmarks in global wealth management and lifestyle choices. But it's not just about making the money, it's also about how they're spending it. Whether it's investing in prime real estate, securing rare art and collectibles, or indulging in health and wellness retreats. India's wealthiest are diversifying beyond the conventional. The days of simply holding on to property and gold are behind them. Today, the ultra-rich are turning to a broader array of luxury investments, from private equity and venture capital to limited edition collectibles. Living in opulence begins with owning prime property, and India's rich are snapping up luxury estates in tax havens like Dubai, Switzerland, and Singapore. In a post-pandemic world, health truly is the new wealth, and India's affluent are pouring money into personal wellness programs and luxury health retreats. Exclusive travel and adventurous experiences are also top of their minds. Investments in space tourism and luxury icebreaker expeditions to the North Pole are no longer just dreams. They're just the next frontier for those looking to curate unique experiences. As traditional equities see more profit-taking, the rich are moving towards private equity and venture capital. From healthcare to renewable energy, these investments are designed to yield high growth and are part of a broader strategy to future-proof their fortunes. In a rapidly evolving investment landscape, India's wealthiest are living the dream, proving that wealth isn't just about owning assets, but about creating experiences and legacies. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Moving on, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has passed the critical popularity test, but just barely. Regional elections on Sunday gave the Social Democrats Party a winning mandate, but the far right were not far behind in the vote share. The election result comes as a reminder for Scholz that this victory comes with a reminder of his declining popularity in a way. Here's a detailed report.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz appears to have fended off a far-right victory in his home state on Sunday. Early exit polls showed Scholz's Social Democrats, SDP, scored almost 31% of the vote in the Brandenburg state election over Alternative for Germany, AfD, closer to 29%. The SDP has governed Brandenburg, the state that surrounds the capital Berlin, since German reunification in 1990. An AfD win would have been a humiliating blow to Scholz's hopes for a second term. He is already the least popular chancellor on record. However, the victory is unlikely to give Scholz a real boost. There is growing debate within the SDP over whether he is the right person to lead the party into next year's federal election. Critics point to what they say is hesitant leadership and poor communication skills. Brandenburg's popular premier and fellow Social Democrat Dietmar Woidke had distanced himself from Scholz during the campaign. On Sunday, Woidke said despite the victory, the exit polls being so close was alarming.
When and openly, in big parts, an overall openly right-wing extremist party in our state scores around 30% of votes, it's hugely alarming for all of us, for all Democrats, for everyone who stands up for freedom, openness, and tolerance. Despite all the pride we feel today due to the good result, we must take this seriously. We must continue the debate after this election campaign. Brandenburg only has a chance if Brandenburg remains a liberal-minded and tolerant state.
While Scholz declared the outcome a significant success for his party, they are struggling nationally, polling at just 15% behind the AfD's 20% and the opposition Conservatives at 32%. The election did see an increased voter turnout at 73%, up from 61% in the previous election. But many who voted for the SDP reportedly chose the party to block the AfD rather than out of strong support. Last month, the AfD became the first far-right party to win a state election in Germany since World War II. It has gained traction on anxiety over a cost-of-living crisis in Europe's largest economy, immigration, and a possible escalation of the war in Ukraine.
On to Brazil now, where protesters marched to the city of Sao Paulo calling for measures to tackle climate change as they criticized the farming industry in the country. The protest was part of a series of mobilizations that started across the country. They were called by organizations like Greenpeace Brazil. In fact, according to local media, the pro-environment protests are set to continue until October.
These wildfires are a consequence of climate change and the global warming, but they are also criminal wildfires. We saw over 500 hotspots, many that are times linked to the burning of production cane and to clear the land for the farming industry and big cane producers and soy producers here in Brazil.
We must make people and oversight bodies aware of the problem to create effective policies for mitigation of climate change effects.
During the Summit of the Future being held at the United Nations, Brazilian President Lula da Silva has said that the goals of reaching sustainable development were at risk of becoming a large collective failure. He stressed on the need to boost the fight against climate change and rethink global governance through international institutions, demanding more action to keep the planet safe from the environmental crisis. This comes at a time when a wave of wildfires ravaged the country amid severe droughts and high temperatures.
Current levels of greenhouse gases and climate funding are not enough to preserve a planet safely. In partnership with the General Secretary for the preparation of the COP30, we will work on a global ethical balance with different sectors of the civil society to think the climate action based on justice, equality and solidarity.
India's Chandrayaan-3 mission continues to make groundbreaking discoveries after its successful mission ended on the moon last year. The data beamed back by the Pragyan rover from the moon's south polar region has now led to the discovery of an ancient crater. It has discovered an ancient 160-kilometer wide crater near the landing site. This significant find occurred as the Pragyan rover traversed the highland terrain at its landing site. This is approximately 350 kilometers from the South Pole Aitken Basin, which is the largest and oldest impact basin on the lunar surface. It contributed nearly 1,400 meters of debris to the landscape. The crater is believed to have been formed before the creation of the South Pole Aitken Basin. This makes it one of the moon's oldest geological structures. Due to the crater's age, it has been mostly buried by debris from later impacts, particularly from the South Pole Aitken event, and has been degraded over time. Images taken by the Pragyan rover's navigation and optical high-resolution cameras revealing the structure of the ancient crater. This, in fact, offers vital clues about the moon's geological history. The discovery has excited scientists around the world as the finding could reshape our understanding of the moon's early history and the formation of its unique terrain. On to the world of sport now. Indian chess has been on the rise since the COVID-19 pandemic, but the balance of power has firmly shifted at the 45th Olympiad in Budapest. India completed a clean sweep at both the men's and women's teams' scripted history by clinching their maiden gold medals. The men's team was near flawless in the open category. They entered the 11th and final round on the back of a big win against top seed USA. India just needed to avoid defeat against Slovenia to clinch gold, and they did much more than that. World Championship challenger Dumaraju Gukesh, world number 4 Arjun Eragaisi and World Cup finalists Ramesh Babu Pragnandana won their respective matches. Vidit Gujarati drew his match on board 4 as India brushed aside Slovenia with a statement 3.5 to 0.5 win. India's best performance before this title run had been 2 bronze medals in 2022 and 2014 respectively. But they decimated the competition in this edition. The men's team played 44 games and lost just once, winning 27 and drawing the remaining. The second-seeded team, meanwhile, ended with 21 points, 4 more than runners-up USA. The Indian women's team also raced home by winning 3 games and drawing 1 against Azerbaijan. Harika Drunavali was at her technical best on the top board. Divya Deshmukh, meanwhile, outclassed her opponent on board 3, and after Pragnanda's sister Vaishali drew her game, Vantika Agrawal sealed the triumph with another brilliant win. India's depth in the women's category can be gauged by the fact that the win was achieved without the country's top-ranked player, Koneru Hampi. Gukesh and Eragaisi, who played on board 1 and 2 respectively, walked away with top honours in the individual category. Deshmukh and Agrawal were the best players on board 1 and 3 respectively in the women's category. 5-time world champion Vishwanathan Anand had put India on the world chess map, remember, by becoming the country's first grandmaster in 1988. His proteges have truly taken the sport to a whole new level. Last year, R. Pragnanda finished runners-up in the Chess World Cup. 3 Indian men and 2 women made the cut for the prestigious candidates tournament. For the first time early this year, Gukesh went one step further and became the youngest man to win the candidates. The 18-year-old could cap off a groundbreaking year for India by becoming the youngest world champion in history when he takes on China's Ding Liren in November.